Hello students, in this lecture you will learn about finding ABCD or transmission parameters in terms of the other three parameters, which are Z parameters, Y parameters and hybrid parameters. So firstly we will learn about finding or deriving ABCD or transmission parameters in terms of Z parameters. Such a derivation usually appears every time in examination. So look at this. You can firstly start with writing the expression wherein Z parameters are defined. The expressions are V1 is equal to Z11 I1 plus Z12 I2 and V2 is equal to Z21 I1 plus Z22 I2. So if we rewrite equation number 2 over here in this fashion, so that we obtain I1 in terms of V2 and I2, then we get it to be compared with one of the equations defining ABCD parameters. So we can clearly see that we have one of the equations as I1 is equal to CV2 minus DI2. So if we compare these two expressions, what we get is C is equal to 1 by Z21 and D is equal to Z22 by Z21. So ultimately I have written the same thing over here. If I then substitute the expression obtained over here in this expression or the first expression, I get V1 in simplified form as this, which is expressed in terms of V2 and I2. One of the standard equations defining ABCD parameters is V1 is equal to AV2 minus BI2. It means that A is being represented over here by this term and B is being represented over here by this term. So this must be equal to B and this must be equal to A. So ultimately I get all the ABCD parameters in terms of Z parameters. Then I would find out ABCD or transmission parameters in terms of Y parameters. Similarly, this can be done in the similar fashion as firstly by writing the equations representing Y parameters. Then you can rewrite this equation or second equation to get V1 in terms of V2 and I2, which can be compared with the standard expression of ABCD parameters, and wherein you get to know A is minus Y22 by Y21 and B is 1 upon Y21, or sorry, B is minus 1 upon Y21. Look at this minus and look at this plus. So ultimately B is comparable with minus 1 upon Y21. Then I would substitute this expression in equation number 1. So I get I1 in simplified form in terms of V2 and I2. So one of the equations defining ABCD parameters is I1 in terms of V2 and I2. So if we compare these two equations, C must be equal to minus delta Y upon Y21, D must be equal to minus Y11 upon Y21. So ultimately the matrix ABCD is equal to a matrix of quantities in terms of Y parameters. Then similar thing can be obtained in terms of hybrid parameters. So firstly write down the expressions representing H parameters, then rewrite this equation so that you get I1 in terms of V2 and I2. So we compare the standard equation and we get C is equal to minus H22 upon H21 and D is equal to minus 1 upon H21. Then we would substitute this expression into the first expression, so that I get V1 is equal to this quantity in terms of V2 and I2, wherein this is comparable with the standard equation representing ABCD parameters, wherein V1 is expressed in terms of V2 and I2. So A must be equivalent to this now, and B must be equivalent to minus of H11 upon H21. So look at this. This is shown over here after comparing the standard equation and now the obtained equation. So finally, a matrix of ABCD parameters in terms of H parameters. I hope this is understood. Thank you.